the 2016 Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series. Brought to you from the studios of Georgia Public Broadcasting. The Republican race for the 9th Congressional District.
Good afternoon. I'm Karyn Greer, investigative reporter for CBS 46 right here in Atlanta. Welcome to the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series, originating from GPB Studios in Atlanta. This is the debate among the Republican candidates in Georgia's 9th Congressional District in Northeast Georgia. That includes Fannin, Gilmer, Hall, and Lumpkin counties, part of Forsyth, and down to Madison and Elbert counties. Now let's meet the candidates. They are in alphabetical order. We begin with Paul C. Broun, previously served as the U.S. Representative for Georgia's 10th Congressional District from 2007 to 2015. Next, we have Doug Collins, a pastor and Air Force Reserve chaplain, has served as the U.S. Representative for Georgia's 9th Congressional District since 2006. Roger Fitzpatrick is a United States Marine Corps veteran. He has been a teacher and school administrator for more than 32 years and has served on the White County Board of Education since 2014. Bernie Fontaine has more than 30 years' experience in the Georgia National Guard and served as a firefighter in Union County. And Mike Scupin is a United States Air Force veteran from Gainesville, Georgia, with a background in land planning and construction. And we are excited to have everyone here to join us. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Now let's meet our panelists. Derek Booth is Assistant Director of News Operations with WDUN AM/FM in Gainesville, Georgia. Walter Jones with the Augusta Chronicle has been covering Georgia politics since 1998. And Doug Richards with 11 Alive has been a reporter in Atlanta for more than 30 years. Well, tonight's debate actually is going to consist of 3 rounds. For more information on the rules for each round, please visit the Atlanta Press Club website, atlantapressclub.org. Now let's get started. In the first round, each candidate will be asked one question by our panelists, and the candidates will have 60 seconds to answer those questions. I want to start things off before Doug gets started and ask all of the panelists a question that I think is pretty timely at this point. The highest ranking Republican elected official right now not ready to endorse Donald Trump. Want to hear from each of you if you are prepared to endorse Mr. Trump right now.
Where do you want to start?
We can begin with you.
Okay, absolutely. We've got to unite the Republican Party because our country hangs in the balance. If we don't come together and support Mr. Trump, who's obviously the people's choice of a candidate, then it's absolutely dangerous that somebody like Hillary Clinton might be elected. And the reason for that is because of the potential Supreme Court nominees. Whoever is going to be put on the U.S. Supreme Court is going to affect our country for decades, and it's absolutely critical that we have conservative justices put on the U.S. Supreme Court. So absolutely, I'll support Donald Trump.
All right, thank you.
Karyn, I think what the speaker did yesterday was actually laid out a good framework for what we've come off of a very long but a very spirited process. And I think what he said was very good. I think we do have to come together. I think what was said about Supreme Court justice, our governing vision, but I think to do that, we've also got to take those steps toward each other. And that's a good thing. I think the speaker brought that out. He said, we're going to come together and talk. I think it's the first step on not only looking at our common vision that Mr. Trump has laid out, which has been exciting to our base, which is good to see, but also the other vision so that we can bring everybody together, because without a good long-term vision, I don't think that's going to fare us well in November, and especially when we look at our other races down ticket, our Senate races. We're looking for Republican majorities also in the House and in the Senate so that we can couple that with the presidency to make real and lasting change in America, and I think that's what he was talking about.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Fontaine.
Great. Fitzpatrick?
Ms. Fitzpatrick, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You know, what's the alternative to getting behind the presumptive nominee? If we don't all come together and have a unified Republican Party, then we will split the vote, and the alternative is going to be 4 more years of the failed policies of this current administration. So we must make sure that we all who have conservative constitutional values get behind the nominee, whoever it is. And if something happens and Mr. Trump, for whatever reason, does not get the nomination, then we need to get behind whoever the nominee is. But as it looks like right now, Mr. Trump will be the nominee, and we must wholeheartedly get behind him so that the Republican Party can be unified in the message that we need to present to the American people.
All right, thank you.
And I too agree with those that have gone before me. We do need to unify the party, and I find it very saddening that some people are, not going along with the program. They're being childish about things. But I'd also like to point out that we really need to get the voters to come out and vote. There are people that say, my candidate didn't make it, so I'm going to stay home, and we need to avoid that at all costs.
All right, and finally.
Yes, I will certainly be behind Mr. Trump or whoever the candidate may be. One thing that just is real interesting and both concerning to me is the fact that when nobody really believed that Donald Trump was going to be the nominee, they were very emphatic that he swear a statement to support whoever it was. And now that it looks like he's going to be the nominee, some of these same people are saying that they won't support him. So I really find that very concerning that we see this kind of duplicity in the Republican Party, and I certainly hope that these people step up and change their minds and begin to work to bring the party together.
All right, thank you. My colleague Doug Richards now going to ask the first question to Mr. Brown.
Thanks, Karyn. Dr. Brown, let's get one of the harder questions out of the way for you at the start here. As you know, your former chief of staff faces a series of indictments. Your former debate coach has pleaded guilty to lying to investigators. Is it reasonable for folks who are weighing you asking them to return you to Congress to weigh how you ran your office when you were in Congress previously?
Yes, we've answered this at great length. In fact, people can go on my website, paulbroun.com, PaulBroun, and can see the facts of this issue. If my chief of staff is indeed guilty of anything, it's because he willfully and directly disobeyed orders that I gave him, and it's unknowing to me that he did so. If he did that, he covered it up. I did not know anything about anything going on in our office that was outside the ethics and legal rules of our office. And in fact, I was very adamant with my chief of staff that I never wanted to get close to the line of any ethics violation. So I've made sure, and over again, I told my chief of staff, we're going to stay above board, and that's the way it is. So people can go on my website, paulbroun.com, and they can get the facts of this issue, and they'll know that I have cooperated fully, presented the facts to the grand jury down in Macon, and the grand jury's gone home.
Thank you very
Is it
much.
reasonable to hold you responsible?
Absolutely not.
All right, we're going to move on. And we have next question coming from Derek Booth to Roger Fitzpatrick.
Good afternoon, or rather good evening, Mr. Fitzpatrick, and thanks you for being here.
Thank you.
I actually remember back in 2012 when you announced you were running for the 9th District, you actually walked into our newsroom, shook my hand, introduced yourself, and said you wanted to announce, and we did the announcement story. If elected to Congress, how can you assure voters you'll retain some of that personal style after time in the Beltway? And how will you remain the Roger Fitzpatrick you are now in a Washington climate that's known to change people?
I think it begins with, where do you come from? I come from Northeast Georgia with Northeast Georgia values. I owe a lot to my parents and the values that they possess, how they raised me, teaching me that what is right and what is wrong is wrong. You treat each other with respect and with dignity, and you always do what you say. One of my favorite quotes from Scripture is, let your yes be yes and let your no's be no. And when you come from that rock-solid bedrock, that core value belief system, it's much easier to be able to say and do what needs to be said and done, regardless of what the pressure is. So I have no concerns with my ability to be able to go to Washington and stand in the face of whatever would await me, and to be able to do the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do.
Walter Jones, your next question is to Doug Collins.
Thank you. Congressman,
Yes, Walter.
you had a little party, fundraiser, and not everybody came. And I wanted to ask you about this invitation that said all these luminaries were going to be there who didn't show up. Were you pulling a fast one on your
Which fundraiser are you talking about, Walter? I mean, at this point, that's I'm an open-ended question. I have to ask you, what fundraiser are you talking about?
I don't have the date, but it listed several senior Republicans in the Georgia party who were, I said it, quote, invited guests, but only Johnny Isaacson was there as the speaker, and the other invited guests didn't show up. Again, coming from a question that really doesn't have, I'm not sure where you're basing it on. I mean, there are fundraisers we have all the time that have people who have lent their name to the fundraiser to encourage not only their supporters, but ours to come as well. And, I'll have to just assume that there were some folks who maybe were our special invited guests who were lending their name to help us, raise money to do the things we need to do. And, that's the way fundraisers go, as we look forward to raising money to fund our campaigns.
Mr. Fontaine, your next question coming from Doug Richards.
Mr. Fontaine, your background, you have a military background. Donald Trump has suggested that waterboarding ought to be part of U.S. policy in interrogating suspects overseas. What do you think?
It reminds me of what has happened to Alan Hunter, and let me start by saying that I would have given Alan a medal for what he did. I agree with Donald that, we live in a strange world where what is being done by the enemy doesn't seem to bother a lot of people in Washington, yet, we can't waterboard. That waterboarding will save lives, and if it was your life or my life or your wife or something like that, it would become personal instead of being just ideological. We have too much ideology and not enough common sense, and I think that's what we need to get to. Thank you.
And Mr. Scupin, your next question is coming from Derek.
Mr. Scupin, thank you for being here. You're the founder of the Lanier Tea Party Patriots. Mr. Fitzpatrick and Mr. Fontaine, both members of the group. In fact, I remember the three of you stood basically at the same podium at a January event and didn't announce, but talked about running for the 9th District. The question is, why not settle on one candidate among the three of you? And second, what would be different about a Congressman Mike Scupin administration over, say, a Fitzpatrick or a Fontaine 9th District?
Well, first, I would like to make a clarification. Yes, General Fontaine did announce at Lanier Tea Party Patriots meeting, but he has never been active with Lanier Tea Party. Roger was at one time a past president. I have never been a president in our Tea Party. I'm only the founder. And so one of the things to me that's going to make me a little bit different is I've been in this fight now since 2009. I didn't start just to run for Congress. When I couldn't find a Tea Party to begin to hold Congress accountable, I started one. I went to Washington, D.C., volunteered to run the health care compact through the state of Georgia. We were the first in the nation to have that signed by the governor. So I've been very active in a lot of different aspects of government besides just running for Congress. So I think that's one of the things that really sets me apart from some of the others.
All right, we are going to move on. That concludes our first round of questioning. Now, in the second round, each one of you candidates will get an opportunity to ask a question of one of your opponents. And any one of your choice, each candidate will have 30 seconds in this round to answer the questions. And to ask the question, and then 60 seconds to respond to the question. So 30 seconds to ask, 60 seconds to respond. and a 30-second rebuttal will also be available. By random selection, Doug Collins, you will have the first question.
Well, thank you, Karyn. Paul, we're going to come back to one I've asked you before. And I think just a moment ago, I thought it was really interesting that when my name's on the door in D.C., I'm responsible for my office, and for you to basically claim no knowledge of what's going on in your office is concerning. But on 12/17/2007, you've made public announcements, didn't ask you to. You said, I've never voted for an omnibus. On 12/17/2007, you voted for an omnibus, along with other Republicans and Democrats. So I'm going to give you a chance to come clean right now. If you can be honest on the little things, maybe you could be respected on some of the bigger questions. So did you vote for one or not?
No, I've never voted for an omnibus bill, Doug, and you know better than that. The omnibus bill that you refer to actually passed in June of 2007. I wasn't even put into office. I wasn't sworn into office until July of 2007. There was an amendment in December that you've referred to. The amendment was actually a pro-military amendment. I'm a Marine. I believe in the Constitution, and national defense, national security should be the major function of the federal government. One Republican, only one, voted no on that amendment. 141 Democrats voted no on that amendment. They wouldn't have voted against Pelosi's omnibus bill. This is just such a far stretch. It's just more of the same of the distortions, the half-truths, and the lies that you've been promoting against me.
Your rebuttal?
You know, I would love to go to the parallel universe that Paul lives in, because I talked to the parliamentarian's office this week. They pulled up, it was H.R. 2764. The last vote taken before the bill went to the president's desk is the one he's talking about. And if you look at omnibus bills, you don't send amendments to the president. This is the part that makes you concerned. If you can't trust him to be honest with his vote, he either thinks this. He either thinks he's either lying or incompetent to know what he's voting for, or he thinks the voters of the 9th District are just stupid. And if they want to see the plan, we'll be happy to show it to him.
All right, next question.
This is just an amendment, and that's all it was to the bill. The bill already passed.
Next question is from you, and you get to 30 seconds. Let's remember, guys, 30 seconds to ask, 60 seconds for the response, 30 seconds for the rebuttal.
Sure.
Dr. Brown.
My question is this: what are your solutions to the most pressing problems facing our nation? And actually, I'm going to ask the citizens of Georgia that question. I'll give you more than 60 seconds to answer. Please call me on my personal cell phone, 678-725-9234. You can ask any questions. I'll straighten out and give you the truth about all the distortions, as well as we'll talk about the pressing issues that face this nation. So it's a question of you. Call me, 678-725-9234.
So,
does that include an omnibus vote?
I guess
Did they ask you about that?
You will not going to ask any of your fellows. Okay.
No, the people of this district in this state and nation are more important to me than the gotcha questions like we just heard from the establishment guy, Doug Collins. And it's absolutely critical that we focus on what is going to be best for this nation. And that's what I've done. And that's what I'll continue to do. That's the reason I invite you to call me. And we'll give you the truth. 678-725-9234.
Let's hope your phone won't ring while we are
Well, that's
here.
my personal cell phone. My communications guy has my phone.
Okay.
But I invite people to call me on that personal cell phone. I carry it in my pocket most times. It's just not there right now.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
To y'all's rules.
Mike Scupin, it's now your chance to ask a question of one of your opponents.
Thank you. Doug, this is for you.
I had a feeling that was going to be. In fact, I think I feel for a few more right here, probably.
Last September, when it came time to vote for the continuing resolution, you stated that you would not vote for the continuing resolution unless it specifically had a clause that prevented any funding for Planned Parenthood. Then comes December with the omnibus bill. You didn't bring that up, that you wanted specifically it stated that there would be no funding for Planned Parenthood, and you voted for it, which it had Title X, which funded Planned Parenthood. Then again in January, you put a bill that you voted for up that defunded Planned Parenthood. So
that's the time we really need to get to your question.
One time you're for it, one time you're not. Do you wonder why it is that the people in the 9th District think that you're running a dog and pony show?
Well, no, not the people in the district, only you, Mike. But when we look at the omnibus vote, what happened when it came to the omnibus vote is by the time we got to the omnibus vote, we had an issue that was put in by Richard Shelby of Alabama, which is that dealt with water. And for those of you who have lived through the water crisis in Atlanta, understands that amendment could have put us back in the times of actually when we were a few years ago, where we were up against possibly water rationing and other things. It's a state issue that needs to be solved on the state level. Now, the other issue that we've talked about is no money in the omnibus bill through specific legislation can be spent on abortions. We've talked about the fact that you can't change the Planned Parenthood spending because of the rules of the House, Rule 21. And the only way you can do that is through actual legislation. It is also why I have a 100% rating with National Right to Life, a 100% rating with Georgia Life Alliance, and also a Family Research Council, Susan B. Anthony. If you thought that we could have changed it then, they would have moved heaven and earth to try and make it happen. They know it can't because we have to do it in the way we did it, which was the reconciliation package and the other votes in which we have actually defunded Planned Parenthood. So that's where it came.
Your rebuttal?
Well, I would say that the continuing resolution was basically the identical same thing that's the omnibus bill. So if he couldn't vote for it with a continuing resolution, I do not understand why he could vote for it with the omnibus bill.
All right, thank you. Mr. Fontaine, your question is to who?
Okay, my question is to Dr. Brown. We have 3 citizen candidates here. We didn't conspire, by the way, so you're aware of that. And Dr. Brown has been in Washington longer than anyone up here. And I'd like to ask, what does it take to be a career politician? What is the criteria?
You'll have to tell me what your definition is, because you categorize me and Doug Collins as career politicians. I don't think he's been a career politician, and I know I have not been. I'm a career medical doctor. I've served 4 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives, and I've fought for the people. I've been fighting for constitutionally limited government the whole time I was there. In fact, there are 4 questions I utilize to evaluate all legislation. The first one is it biblically correct? The second one, is it constitutional according to the original intent? Third, do we need it? Fourth, can we afford it? I'm trying to take power away from the politicians and the bureaucrats in Washington and send it back to the states or to the people as the 10th Amendment demands. So you're in charge of me being a career politician, and actually for Doug Collins to being a career politician. He was a lawyer.
That was your question.
He's a lawyer. I'm putting up for, I'm standing up for both of us, my friend. But the thing is,
well, you get 30 seconds, Mr. Collins, if you'd like to respond to that as well.
I wasn't brought into it. I'll let Bernie and Paul handle that one.
Okay. Rebuttal?
Okay, the rebuttal is that you have heard some political rhetoric. I taught political science for many years, and you've just heard some political rhetoric. Those that go to Washington and don't ever want to leave, as Reagan said, they have Potomac fever. That's a career politician by my definition.
All right, thank you very much. And our final question for this round will come from Roger Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, since your time in Congress, the annual budget deficits have ranged from $438 billion to $642 billion. And the House of Representatives has the power of the purse, the power to rein in out-of-control spending, and yet, instead of acting with fiscal constraint, the House continues to add more and more to the mounting public debt. With the debt currently over $19.25 trillion and no end in sight, how can you call yourself a fiscal conservative while you are voting to add more and more to the debt and at the same time selling out the future of those generations that will come after us?
You've gone over, okay.
I appreciate Roger's question. I think the interesting issue is from the perspective of our bottom line over what we have done over the past 5 years, and part of that was since the Republicans took control, is the deficit was $1.4 trillion just in 2011, and it's been cut down now to roughly $500 billion. That's a cut. What didn't come from the administration. It came because Republicans got budget deals that actually would begin to cut. We've cut money out of the IRS, EPA. But the other issue is one of the things that's concerning many of us is we need to stay on a level. Sequester is bad in many ways. That was the deal cut, and it's dealt with our military. But one of the issues that we did is I did vote against the deal that was cut last fall in raising and moving adjustments for numbers. So what we're looking at right here is continuing to make progress in this position. I'm not happy with where the deficit is. We need to be on a fiscally sound where our budget is balanced. Balanced budget amendment, whatever it takes, we need to get there, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Well, the fact of the matter is that this current fiscal year, The deficit is ballooning to $616 billion over last year's deficit of $438 billion. And in the omnibus spending bill that you just had, it was an increase of 5%, which went to about $55 billion.
Hate to cut you off,
voting
but
for the increase in
you are
deficit
over
spending.
time. Hate to cut you off. That
Yes,
is
ma'am.
it for that round. Thank you for joining us. For those of you just now joining us, you are watching the debate between the Republican candidates in Georgia's 9th Congressional District. As you see, we are really in full swing here. We're going to go now to our third and final round. In this round, each one of our panelists will get a chance to ask a question of the candidate of his or her choice until we run out of time. So if there's a rebuttal available, I'll make sure to try and jump in and get that for you, gentlemen. So let's begin. Doug, you get the first question.
I have a question for Congressman Collins, although I'd be interested in hearing everybody's opinion on it. The new leader of your party, Donald Trump, has said that he would like to invoke a religious test for allowing folks into this country, and he specifically says that Muslims ought not be allowed until we get it figured out. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's interesting. At this point, he is looked to be our presumptive presidential candidate. We'll deal with how he leads in other areas. I think it's very concerning, frankly, from the religious test part. Now, do we need to look at who's coming into our country from the areas of the country and looking at their backgrounds? Yes. That's why I've supported a new refugee bill that we've just passed out of the Judiciary Committee moving forward. It actually puts Congress back in control of the refugee camps and not the president. It also adds in certain background checks where the Immigration and National Day Service can actually look at not only just the normal questions, but look into the backgrounds. But I think we've got to be very careful that we've got to look at the whole problem as a whole. Most of those who are coming and wanting to come into our country to come illegally or still here illegally came legally. We've got a whole immigration system problem here, and that's one of the reasons we passed out of the House a bill that would stop the immigration coming from Syria and Iraq until we got that checkoff from the Homeland Security and FBI director. Those are things that need to be done, but this is not a problem that we specifically label in one group. We've got to look at the whole area because we want to be protected in a whole.
We're going to move on down the line. Mr. Fitzpatrick?
The number one responsibility of the federal government is national security. And twice in the last century, two of our presidents, both Democratic by the way, chose to close the borders to specific ethnic groups. FDR did it and Jimmy Carter did it, and it is well within the right and responsibility of our federal government to close the border to specific ethnic groups. And I'll say this, not all Muslims are terrorists, but 100% of the terrorists are Muslims. Now, which is more important? Securing the national interest of the people of the United States of America, or allowing someone to come into this country where we have absolutely no way of 100% vetting who they are, whether they are members of ISIS or whether they're friendly to us. Since we don't have any way of telling the difference, I am in favor of shutting the border to the possibility of any terrorist coming into this country by any means.
Mr. Fontaine?
Could you please repeat the question? My hearing is not what it ought to be from being in OSHA-disapproved places.
Do you think there should be a religious test that the United States imposes on folks who are visiting this country? And I'm specifically referring to Donald Trump's proposal that Muslims be banned from America, from coming into America.
It goes to the question of being politically correct. Donald apparently was not politically correct, but he was very right in his common sense approach that we have to stop the danger, and that's what you've heard here. We need to stop the danger. We need to quit talking about theory and let's live in the real world. There are real problems there. Now, I don't have any problem with providing some money for real refugees that may be in the area of the Near East and leave them there where they're closer to home. I find it very difficult to understand why these so-called refugees are no women and children. That's what I think of as refugees. That's what I remember refugees as. These are military-age people that are coming in here, just so happen not to have any documentation, and we're supposed to let them in.
Mr. Scupin?
I'm going to go simple and just say I ditto what Roger Fitzpatrick said. He is dead on target with everything he said about this issue. But I also want to point out that in the omnibus bill, which Doug Collins voted for, we funded refugee resettlement, which continues to bring these people into our nation with very inadequate vetting processes. nearly everything that our president asked for that dealt with immigration was approved in that bill. And then we get emails from our representative telling us that he's upset because Obama now is shortening the vetting time. Had he disapproved that with his vote, maybe he wouldn't have the funds to do it. So I think we've got to take a serious look at how our current sitting congressman is voting, because he is not voting for the people.
Dr. Brown.
And I will claim my time.
Okay.
Until we secure our borders, nothing else matters, whether it's legal immigration or the illegal aliens coming in this country. And it's a national security issue. I was on the Homeland Security Committee, and we've got people coming across our southern border particularly, but even the northern border, that are not Mexicans. The federal government calls them OTMs. And until we secure the border, we have a tremendous security risk. We should not be bringing the Syrian refugees into this program, period. We need to secure the border today. I want to put the military on our borders. We don't have time for a wall. I want to build a fence or a wall as quickly as we can, but it's absolutely in our best security interest today to secure the borders, put military on the borders to make sure no one comes in this country unless we know who they are, where they are, and send them home if they're not coming here as good American citizen potential.
Mr. Collins, your rebuttal?
I think one of the things we go back to, and this was mentioned here, and we look at the Syrian refugee program, and one of the refugee programs from Near East is, one, we're doing everything we can to actually keep them there, and that's what we need to continue to do. What we're not talking about here is we're not talking about the ones who are just going over the sea and going into Greece. That's not what we're talking about here. Even under our current program, there is vetting that needs to be improved. We passed that legislation, and guess where it went? It went to the Senate and died there. We were said we'll ban not coming into the country until we get this vetting process done. When you also we put in the visa waiver program, which actually was in the omnibus bill, that said if you travel to that part of the world, you wouldn't be able to come over here without having that set. So you can't do it. You can't just use your passport to come here. So that's where we're at.
As you can see, I'm not good at cutting you all off when you go over time. So they've told me in the control room they will cut your mics. So we really need you to follow the time limits out of fairness for everyone here. I'm not that good person. So, all right, are we ready? Out of fairness, we are going to move right along. Our next question right now is from Walter.
Thank you, and thanks for not cutting off my mic.
The night is young.
Yeah, it could still happen. My question for Paul Broun is, I think a lot of this whole campaign comes down to a style issue. I don't mean that in a flippant way, but a style of approach in office. And I'd like to hear your argument for the approach you took when you were in Congress for 8 years, in which you voted no, you voted against the leadership on so many issues where it may have seemed like you were making debating points, but how can you be effective in changing the policy of the country if you're not part of the leadership?
Walter, you don't have to be part of the leadership. I got a bill passed through the U.S. House that would give us an open, clear, transparent audit of the Federal Reserve. I introduced a bill that Tom Coburn used a part of it. When people can carry guns into national parks today, it's because of a bill that I wrote. I've worked with people where we can, but I've got 4 questions that I ask about all legislation, and that's what powers my voting pattern. Is it biblically correct? Is it constitutional according to the original intent? Do we need it? And can we afford it? And the big difference in this campaign is I'm the outsider. I'm the candidate who I've been endorsed by Rand Paul as an example. Ted Cruz is a good friend of mine. We fought real hard in the trenches to try to stop the out-of-control government and to try to stop the implementation of Obamacare. We need to say no more to the establishment leadership in the House and the Senate, and that's what I did.
All right. Thank you very much, Derek. Your question is to whom?
All right. My question is to Mr. Fontaine. Mr. Fontaine, much has been written and debated about the younger generation. We dub them the millennials. Several staff members at my organization are a member of this demographic. In the presidential race, Bernie Sanders and even to some extent Donald Trump have really energized some of these young voters. Mr. Fontaine, how would you go about interacting with and energizing the millennials of the 9th District if you become congressman?
Interesting you should bring up my namesake from the other side. We have one thing in common. We do not like PACs, political action committees. But to get to your question, we have to focus on these people and what are their needs. They don't seem to understand. And I like to quote Churchill, as a matter of fact, because when you're 20 years old, and that's the people you're talking about, you know, if you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart, as Churchill said. But when you're 40, and if you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain. And therein lies the answer, because, you know, the other Bernie can promise all kinds of things, but what he can't articulate is where will the money come from to give all these people everything that they've always wanted. They've never had to fend for themselves. They've always been spoon-fed, and that is really part of the big problem.
So how will you, let me just jump in here, how do you plan to involve them in the process?
How do we involve them in the process of...
If you become the candidate, if you become the
If
next...
I become the candidate, how do I get them to understand what the problems are and what we need to do? Well, the first thing is we need to start talking straight about what the problems are. And one of the things that I get for feedback from these debates that we have is that they seem to be interested in my responses, because my responses are straight out. I don't beat around the bush, and I just come straight out with the solutions that I see. We're not going to change, by the way, 20-year-olds who are in love with Bernie Sanders. We're not going to change them that quickly. It's going to take some time and effort.
All right. Thank you very much,
May I
Doug
address
Richards.
that also?
You sure may.
You know, I think the way that you approach that with millennials is the same way that you'd approach it with anybody else. And you use education as a pathway of getting across a message of our founders gave us this nation so that we could live our lives in liberty and in freedom. And you have to ask this question. Do you want the federal government telling you what you may or may not do with your life, or do you want to live your life in freedom and in liberty? And when you paint the picture that it is much better for us to be able to do it in liberty, life is better.
All right, Mr. Collins, we're going to ask you all about this.
Well, I think the great part is the actual engagement. And now, look, their viewpoint, especially those who are with Ms. Sanders, are off. They're not. But if we don't engage, if we don't use, back as my own children, 19, 17, 24, engage them in the medias in which the social medias, the other aspects, go to where they are, listen, be a part of that, and involve them in the process, which I think is a good thing, because if we lose their involvement in the process, we've lost it long term. And I think for our country and for our state's sake, the changing demographic has got to have that in there.
All right, 30 seconds, Dr. Brown.
I'm glad the millennials are getting engaged in this, because the future of this nation lies in their hands. And Congress right now today, under the leadership of Republicans, are spending away their future. And it's, in fact, robbing their grandchildren of their future as well. And we're stealing our future generations' money. It's got to stop, and the millennials getting engaged in this process and understand that we've got to stop the establishment, Republicans and Democrats in Washington, is absolutely critical. And I represent them. That's the reason Rand Paul endorsed me.
All right, Mr. Scupin, you've got the last rebuttal on this, 30 seconds.
Well, one of the things that I enjoy doing is talking with young people about these kinds of issues, and especially about our Constitution. Our school system is currently not delving very heavily into our Constitution and explaining to these young people what it means, what it was founded on, and why it exists. So it's no wonder when they graduate from school, they want everything free from the government, because they do not understand socialism. Socialism is great until you run out of other people's money. Then it falls flat on its face, and they need to understand that.
All right, Doug Richards.
An issue that we've colloquially called medical marijuana has surged through the Georgia legislature over the last 3 years, and it's now legal to prescribe cannabis oil for certain conditions, but it is illegal to obtain cannabis oil, and Governor Deal has said that the biggest problem is that Congress won't fix the federal law that prohibits the interstate transport. Should Congress get involved in this? And this is for you, Dr. Brown.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the first votes I made when I was sworn into Congress was it was an amendment to the CJS appropriations bill, and the amendment said that the federal government cannot prosecute doctors or patients where medical marijuana has been legalized. I have been fighting for the use of medical marijuana. I had a patient. I'm a medical doctor, as you know, Doug, and I had a patient, little girl, that had intractable seizures. The only way we could keep her from dying from those seizures was to keep her in a coma. This is a good drug. When it's utilized by a doctor, it's no dangerous. Actually, it's less dangerous than a lot of the narcotics. So I'm a very firm advocate for the use of medical marijuana as a drug under the direction of a doctor, where they write the prescription. And I fought for that, and I'll continue to fight for that.
Anybody else with an answer?
Yes, sir. The original intent of the Constitution does not give the federal government any authority in this matter, so it is purely a state responsibility to determine whether they want to legalize marijuana or anything else for that matter. And you'll notice that in states where marijuana has been legalized, the federal government's done nothing, and they won't. Now, I do not in any way come down on the side of legalizing marijuana, carte blanche. I do not in any way. But my question is this: medical cannabis oil, how is that any different from morphine or any other controlled pharmaceutical substance? If it is going to help anybody, medically speaking, then we need to legalize it. We need to manufacture it. We need to import it. We need to do whatever is necessary for those patients that live within the state of Georgia so that they can live their lives in a productive manner rather than having to go out of state to somewhere else where it is okay to do it.
Collins?
Well, I think the issue is it's fine to have it to where we don't go into the states where it's currently made legal, but the problem is like Georgia where you can't grow it. There's an issue here of how you get it here, and I think that's where the federal, because it is across state lines, that is a constitutional issue that the federal government will be a part of, and I think you got to make sure that there is a way for it to get to those states, and we're looking into that. But there's also a bigger picture here. It's not a question, but this goes into the FDA approval of drugs in general, not just for those that have that issue of looking at it from a perspective of saying this is a child who has seizures or stuff, which is very valid. But for folks like in my family who have other diseases and other things, what are we doing there to make sure that they get there and get the federal regulations out of the way, and to let these folks choose for themselves what kind of medication that they want to take in consulting with their doctor and the patient? And that's really the whole thing that goes back to healthcare in America right here.
Mr. Fontaine? Go ahead.
I'd like to respond. First off, we just heard Congressman Collins say that this was a federal issue because it crosses state lines. That shows me that he does not understand the original intent of the Constitution as the founders founded. So that's the first point I want to make. Secondly, this whole issue is very hypocritical because we use morphine, which comes from a plant, no different than marijuana, and cannabis oil comes from a plant. And those are very beneficial drugs. So this hypocritical aspect that we're having right now over this debate, to me, it needs to go away. It needs to be replaced. We need this for these kids and adults that have these issues that cannabis oil will help. To me, it's as simple as that.
Mr. Fontaine?
This is a good example of where the Democrats like to stir things up a little bit. And, you know, here we are, our own worst enemy, because this is micromanagement. This is a drug. It should be handled as a drug. I go along with what's been said earlier. It's a drug. It should be handled that way. And there's plenty of regulation there to handle drugs. We need to get out of this micromanagement mode.
All right. Walter Jones.
I'd like to ask sort of a political question. Doug Collins, the odds are that the next president is either going to be a liberal or a populist, not a conservative. The conservative caucus is not likely to have a veto-proof majority in either the House or the Senate. And if you look at the demographics, the millennials, as they are now, the rising population of minority voters, are not conservatives. So how does a congressman govern in a way that that leads toward the eventual, I guess, the viability, would say, of the conservative cause?
Well, I think that's really the question that's going to be in general, and we look at it, and it's the concern that I have not only the presidential aspect of this, but as I mentioned a little bit ago, we're going to talk about the presidential race and whoever that may be, and for me, it would be anybody, but especially Hillary. But when you look at the House and the Senate, we have a concern right now that we may not be able to hold the Senate.
in the House. We'll be able to hold the House in Republican hands. What we've got to do is continue to move the needle from conservative and actually be able to explain this is why it works. You made a comment that minorities and others don't subscribe to conservative views, but I've never went yet to any group and asked them, don't you think it's a good idea to balance your checkbook? Don't you think it's a good idea not to spend more money than you have? Don't you believe it's a good idea to have some savings? When you get it down to the basic levels, that's the kind of thing that we've got to have the communication on in Congress and outside of Congress, instead of just going and being in D.C., coming back home and beginning that process. It starts at that root and then begins to change in D.C.
Derek Booth, did you have a rebuttal?
Yeah, well, not a rebuttal. I just would like to make a
Okay.
comment about answering Walter's question. Walter, the Macon Telegraph at one time described me as a populist Republican. The reality is I'm a constitutional Republican. And I think a lot has to do with educating all Americans. The establishment in Washington, D.C. are destroying America. The Republican Party establishment as well as the Democratic Party are. And that's the reason that the presidential races are running the way they are. I'm a populist. I represent the people, and that's what I did when I was in Congress. We've got to get rid of these establishment-type politicians, and the only way to do that is have a revolution at the ballot box. And that's exactly what I will help to lead once I'm in Congress as the 9th District Congressman. We've got to throw the establishment out, put in place policy that made this country great, and those are the original principles of our founding fathers in the Constitution as it was intended.
Derek Booth.
Karyn.
Dr. Brown, I want to go back to you, and this is changing it up.
I just had a quick question, because I am the establishment has been pointed to here. I think one of the interesting things is, Walter, going back to your question, how do you get things actually through Congress? Now, we can talk about that as well. One of the interesting things is working and getting bills passed, which I have done, that actually are going to be signed into law that are conservative principles, even under this administration. But also, it's funny that Dr. Brown bring this up, because he would bring amendments to the floor. I'd even voted for some of them. He would get these amendments in and then vote against the bill. Now, at the end of the day, they're going to be taken out. And it was really, talk about the dog and pony show from Mike earlier. That's the dog and pony show. That's not getting anything done.
I'm going to claim my rebuttal here, too.
I would.
30 seconds.
Okay. I introduced more targeted spending cuts than any other member of Congress. And I'll continue to fight to stop this out-of-control spending that Republicans are guilty of doing, just like the Democrats were. It's got to stop. And in fact, we got some amendments passed to cut spending. But the bill is still bad. You get bad language out. If the bill is still bad, you vote no, and that's exactly what I did as a congressman, and that's what I'll do as a congressman of the 9th.
All right, Derek, I'm going to jump in real quick before you ask your questions. Just ask quickly your feelings on weapons on college campuses, handguns, weapons.
If you can legally carry a firearm, I see no reason to restrict it, the college campuses. And so yes, I'm in favor of campus carry.
I would have voted for the bill in law.
I'm a very ardent supporter of the Second Amendment. In fact, I was the chairman of the Second Amendment Task Force in the U.S. House. Any law, local, state, or federal, that interferes with a person's God-given right to own, carry, or utilize a firearm, as long as they don't hurt someone else or someone else's property, is unconstitutional, and they all ought to be taken off the books, and I'll continue to fight. Our Second Amendment is a guardian of liberty, and the First Amendment is too, and I will fight for both of those as a congressman in the 9th Congressional District. That's the reason people ought to vote for Paul Broun to be the congressman.
Campus carry?
Well, again, it seems rather hypocritical that we have a Second Amendment that gives us that right, and then for some reason our leaders say, well, you don't have that right to go to do it over here. All the shootings that I know of, for the most part, have taken place in gun-free zones. Why? It's very simple. They know they're not going to get shot. So they come in, they blast away, they kill as many as they can before they leave or before something does happen. So as long as we continue to hold gun-free zones, we're going to have people getting killed. I want somebody there that's carrying a gun when something like that happens, so they can stand up and put a stop to it so as fewer people get killed as possible.
All right, Mr. Fontaine, quickly.
I have carried a handgun as a matter of course, and I have been on the national matches at Camp Perry, Ohio, so I know a little bit about handguns. And, you know, the carrying of a weapon is the same as motherhood issues. Everybody is for it, and that's fine. But I caution that a lot of people, and I have met people, and I have had to consult people, that they don't know which end the bullets come out of, and it's dangerous. They're more dangerous to themselves by carrying that weapon than they would be if they didn't have a weapon. So that education in this case needs to be addressed.
All right. Derek, last question from you really quickly. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Eighth time.
I want to go to Congressman Collins. I want to return to the tri-state water wars. You mentioned that in the omnibus defense. The 9th District includes the reservoir, Lake Lanier. We drink it. Atlanta drinks it. I fish on it. We boat on it. And many businesses in our district depend on it. What role should Congress play, if any, moving forward related to the tri-state dispute, and how would you be involved in a solution in another Collins term?
Well, I think the interesting issue is not only do we have, and talking about water in general, and I'll speak specifically because I've been involved in the water wars from the House perspective when I was in the Georgia House, but also now in Congress. But the Congressional District also has not only the Chattahoochee Basin, but also the Savannah River Basin, basically starting from the Georgia perspective in the 9th District. The role for the federal government in this one is get out of it. Right now, what we need to do, and that's why the vote and why it's still baffling to me, and they'll quote many things they didn't like about the omnibus, but when it came to the very thing that has cost Georgia well into the $40 million last time I saw the last cost for consultants and legal fees, when it came to something like that, they could have put us further behind, knowing that the things you couldn't change, but knowing the thing that the district where I live, where you live, and the state of Georgia was being put in such jeopardy to vote against that and to not get that language out. 11 of 12 of us voted for that bill because we got the language stripped from that. It needs to happen. What needs to happen right now is the three governors need to find a retreat somewhere and actually just go in and solve this problem.
I apologize. We are out of time. Now we have 60 seconds for each one of you to do your closing statements. So we are going to begin right now with Mr. Fontaine.
With me?
Yes.
Okay. My point is that we have to get one person here has the answer. You have to pick one person out of five, and that's what this election's all about. So we have two career politicians, as I see it, and we have three citizen candidates. If you like what you've been having over the last few years and so forth, then I say go that route. Otherwise, look at these three citizen candidates and look at their qualifications. One of the areas that is most needed in Congress, and it was demonstrated again last night on a television, there is no leadership. The leader there wasn't ready to lead. That's one of the things that I find I have had, unfortunately or fortunately, a lot of leadership training and practice. The second thing is that I know how to manage multi-million-dollar projects and how to handle tax money. I have saved millions of dollars before. And the last thing is my education, which was not mentioned, is relevant to what needs to be done there. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger Fontaine. Actually, Roger Fitzpatrick. You have 1 minute.
Something going on here.
Thank you, ma'am.
1 minute.
Oh, no.
The number one national security issue facing the United States of America is our mounting debt. At currently over $19 trillion and growing by leaps and bounds every year. More and more, our national security is at risk. Ladies and gentlemen, we must, at post haste, do something about our mounting federal debt because it will cause us to become less of the great nation that we are intended to be and more of a slave to the lender. We must have change in Washington. We must have someone to go to represent the third most conservative district in the United States, the 9th District of the state of Georgia. We must have somebody that is going to represent that district who has conservative, constitutional, fiscally sound policies. And I ask for your vote on May 24th. I ask for your prayers, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
All right, Doug Collins.
I stood at these podiums a little over 4 years ago and said, here's why I'm running. I'm running for Jordan, Copeland, and Cameron. They're my three kids because they represented not only my kids, but the kids and nieces and nephews and aunts and uncles. They represent our district. And what I said is I would take North Georgia common sense values to D.C., and I would work to make sure that they were heard. And since we've been there, we've had a lot of fights, and we've talked about those today on different votes. But at the core, it was always what is best for our district. And we've done that. We fought the Corps of Engineers on irrigation bans where they just decided they were going to do it without any public input. We've worked to fight against a monopoly, Windstream, that is killing our economic development in our district. We've worked to make Camp Merrill now back owned by the Army, no longer owned by the Corps, by the Forestry Service. So we're not paying money between government agencies. The Army now has the second leg of Ranger School, which is a bill we passed, is on their own again. And when we look at these kind of things, you're fighting for community pharmacists, you're fighting for people. If you want somebody that listens to the 9th District and knows the issues of orphan counties and others, then you vote for Doug Collins on May 24th, or go right now and you can vote as well.
All right, Mike Scupin.
I'm going to do something I rarely do. I'm going to congratulate Representative Collins. I heard something constitutional come out of his mouth a while ago when he said the federal government ought to get out of the water wars. That's a state's issue. It is not a federal government issue, and I commend you for that.
Thank you.
But more than that, the issues he just talked about, Windstream, the Corps of Engineers, those are things that any one of these men sitting here would fight for their constituents with. It doesn't take a special person sitting up there. What I got into this race to do was to return this nation back to the Constitution. We have gotten away from that thing for over the last 100 years. The Constitution is what made America great. It's not taking common sense to Washington. You take common sense up there and you're putting the Constitution on the back burner. We have got to return to Article 1, Section 8, the enumerated powers if this nation is going to be saved. That is what I got in this race to do. That's what I'll do when I go to Congress. Thank you.
Dr. Paul Broun, you're wrapping it up.
This issue, this race is very clear. Do you want the establishment? Do you want to continue down the road? The best example of how out of touch Doug Collins and the establishment in Washington are is the omnibus bill. It funds Planned Parenthood. It funds Obamacare. It funds the Syrian refugee program, it funds the amnesty program of Barack Obama. Creates another over $500 billion worth of debt. And I wouldn't have voted for that. Not only for those reasons, because it's not constitutional. I'm the people's candidate. Madison Project gave me, I think, the best recommendation and compliment I've had. They said many elected Republicans lay claim to a conservative voting record, and many Republican candidates promised to deliver the world to conservative primary voters. Yet few come to the ankles of Paul Broun. They went on to say, even the fiercest conservative fighters tend to succumb to the establishment meat grinder after a few years. Paul Broun has been inviolable. Vote Paul Brown.
That concludes our debates. At this point, we'd like to remind our voters that the primary elections will be held on Tuesday, May 24th, and early voting is already underway. Have a good night.
Thank you.